Pokemon really loves Kanto. There's all kinds of memes about it. The community jokes about it, makes fun about it all the time. And yet, there are still actually a lot of things from the Kanto region that kind of go unanswered. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Welcome back to the Lumios Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon. And today, we're talking about some of the biggest mysteries from the Kanto region. Things that we saw in Kanto or were alluded to in Kanto, but we never got closure on them or fulfillment on them, and I really want to know what they are. For this list, I will be sticking with the mainline games only. I will not be touching on the anime, because obviously that's a whole nother can of worms. But yeah, so let's jump right in with the very first mystery, and that is, what the heck are they building in Vermilion City? If you go to Vermilion City and Pokemon Red, Blue, Green, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Yellow, doesn't matter, there will be this guy who's walking around with a Machop, and he's like, hey, I'm, fixing up the foundation here because we're going to build something. Well, when you play Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which takes place many years later, you go to this spot, and there's still nothing built yet, and this guy's still walking around on it. So what the heck is taking so long to... And why haven't they even started construction? 2 years? You're still doing foundation work? I am not, by any means, a construction expert, but I feel like foundation work does not take 2 years, unless there's, like, a serious problem. So I just want to know, what the heck is being built here? Like, seriously, what the heck is being built here? I absolutely have to know this. In the anime, I know I said I wouldn't bring up mysteries from there, but... talking about a potential answer from the anime, we do have Ash and Go living in Vermilion City in Pokemon Journeys, and there's actually a new gym that's under construction there. Now, maybe this is the case here. That seems a little weird to me, though, because cities don't typically have 2 gyms. There are, of course, some exceptions to that, like there is the fact that the Saffron City had 2 gyms, but one of them even closed and is no longer a gym in that sense, right? So it's still... doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm very curious why they would build another gym, and maybe that's not even the answer. Maybe even they are building a new gym there, but for the current gym leader, Lieutenant Serge. Maybe he's just moving buildings. He just wants a bigger building or something. I don't know. But yeah, I really want to know what the heck they're building in Vermilion City. And that brings us to our next mystery, which also is something from Vermilion City, and that is Lieutenant Serge himself. Lieutenant Serge is extremely strange. You see, they refer to him as an American, and he's this veteran. He's a lieutenant, so he has fought in some kind of war, probably an American war, but we don't really know what this war is. And then there's the fact that America shouldn't really exist in the Pokemon world, right? Like, there's an equivalent of it for sure, but we don't know what that equivalent is. Like, for example, back in Red and Blue, it talks about how Raichu can knock out an Indian elephant. This was later corrected in Pokemon Legends Arceus to say that Raichu can knock out a Copperajah, because Copperajah is the Pokemon equivalent of an Indian elephant. So you'd think that they would do this with Lieutenant Surge at some point. Like, at some point they'd say the Unovan Lieutenant or something, but they don't. They keep going with the American thing, and that's just really confusing in itself. Hang on, is Lieutenant Surge a faller from our world? Did Lieutenant Surge fall from a world without no, there's no way, because they give us more plot than that. But you see what I mean here? It's kind of, Lieutenant Surge is in a way, like, a paradox, because, like, he's American, but America doesn't exist here, or at least it shouldn't exist here, because, like, we have Unova and stuff, so America definitely doesn't exist here in the same way it does in our world. What the heck is going on, Lieutenant Surge? I need a full biography ASAP. My next big question actually takes place over in Lavender Town, and that is with the ghost Pokemon of Lavender Town specifically. When you go to Lavender Town at first, if you do not have the Silph Scope, you will encounter ghost Pokemon, but they will be, like, too scary for your team to even fight. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're going to have to turn back around and get the Silph Scope before you can interact with these ghost Pokemon. But my question is, why? Like, why are the ghost Pokemon in Kanto, which, by the way, is only Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar, and then that ghost Marowak, why do they function differently than ghost types in other regions? Is it something about the energy of this tower? Is it something to do with all the Chandlers in there, they're somehow empowering these ghost types with these seance circles and stuff. I don't know, but I'm really curious why these ghost types function differently here, because in no other region do you need a Sylph Scope to see what the ghost type is. It is only in the Kanto region that you have this issue with ghost type Pokemon. And again, it's only the Ghastly line too, and they're in other regions and it's just fine. So I really wonder what that is. Maybe there's probably a theory to be had there about, again, like the Chandlers or even the tower itself having all these seances and stuff, empowering these ghost type Pokemon. And maybe that's even why the Lavender Tower was eventually, the Pokemon Tower of Lavender Town rather, was eventually destroyed and replaced with a radio tower. Perhaps it's because, you know, these ghost Pokemon, they were becoming too big of a problem. I mean, daggum, you go there to just see your Pokemon's grave and you're attacked by ghost Pokemon that you need high-tech equipment just to be able to handle. That's a little broken. But then again, ghost types were kind of broken in Gen 1, so I guess that's fitting. And speaking of ghost type, we have the ghost type Elite Four member. Or really, she's kind of a poison type Elite Four member, but they say she's ghost type because her ace is Gengar. That is, of course, Agatha. We know that Agatha has some kind of history with Professor Oak. She talks about this, but I really kind of want to know what happened there. This is another one of those things like Lieutenant Serge, where I'd like the backstory on it. I'd like to know, you know, what happened. It kind of seems like they were, like, at least one of them liked the other, you know, and then something happened to make them kind of start to resent each other a little bit, or at least her resent him. I don't know. I could see this being a thing of maybe Oak and her are dating, and she, you know, they both are trainers, but Oak starts to fall more in love with researching, and Agatha, you know, is much more into battles, hence her being an Elite Four member, and maybe that just kind of drifted them apart. Maybe just Professor Oak becoming a professor and, you know, devoting all of his time to that. Maybe that drifted them apart. Maybe Agatha, becoming an Elite Four member and that taking up her time. Maybe that's why they fell apart. Is Agatha Gary's grandmother or Blue's grandmother? I don't know. Probably not, because I'd imagine that would be addressed. But either way, all these things are really interesting. And then on the subject of Blue or Gary, I want to know who their parents are, who Oak's kids are. You know, we don't know if, well, given that Gary's last name is Oak, I would imagine that it is his dad that is the son of the professor, rather than his mom being the daughter of the professor. But either way, I'd like to know more about this character. We're always speculating about who's Red's dad and who is Ash's dad and all this stuff, but I feel like no one ever talks about who or where Blue's parents are, and that's just kind of something that is really interesting to me. He seemingly just lives alone with his sister and his grandpa. And so, I don't know, I'm curious why both his parents are out of the picture. You know, did they pass away? Did they just leave them? Did they both go on Pokemon journeys? Because apparently it's cool to abandon your wife and child as long as it's for a Pokemon journey in this world. I don't know. I hope we get those answers one day, but given that, you know, they probably wouldn't want to do too big of a bombshell on a classic character, we may never know. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are my big questions from Kanto. The things from Kanto that if we got a Legends Kanto game or a Kanto sequel or even just Kanto remakes, these are the questions that I'd be like, I hope Game Freak answers this. There are, of course, plenty more that you could come up with. I mean, things surrounding the creation of some of these Pokemon, like Mewtwo, there's still a lot of blanks in its backstory, as well as its connection to Mr. Fuji. So there's definitely more to be had. Let me know your biggest mysteries, the things you would want answered in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And until next time, I will see all of you later.